either dismissal or a significant pay cut. Okay, then dismiss me. I worked at the company for 14 years, 12 of which I truly loved my job. My work consisted of two main parts. The first part was sales, which took place outside the office, on clients' premises. This involved a lot of driving and, occasionally, flying abroad to meet clients face to face and provide a high-quality product. We weren't the cheapest on the market, but our product was the best. I was one of the best employees when it came to product delivery. Clients constantly left enthusiastic reviews about my personal approach and how I brought their vision to life. I received a large number of repeat orders, as well as many new clients through word of mouth, thanks to the positive experiences clients had with me. The second part of the job took place in the office and was my weak point. I hated cold calling potential clients using numbers found in the phone book. However, I had no trouble responding to calls from clients who reached out to us themselves. Making the first move with cold calls was the only thing I was bad at. Eventually, I was relieved of the cold calling responsibilities in the office. Instead, I focused on preparing the product, developing it, and training new employees. This became one of my primary duties. I also solved various problems, helped where I could, and covered for sick colleagues whenever necessary. I liked the owner, the manager, and all my coworkers. Overall, it was a great job in which I excelled and took pride. The company was so successful that the owner gradually and steadily expanded it over the 12 years since I joined. I started working there 3 months after it opened, so I became part of that growth. Although I worked in the nearest office, I was often sent to other regions to train personnel. Sometimes, I was even rented out to other companies to train their employees. Once, I was a guest lecturer at a university, teaching medical students how to explain complex concepts to people with no foundational knowledge in the field. After 12 years, I earned a decent salary, not enormous, but it suited me. Then the owner decided to sell part of the company, including my local office. He said he'd be happy if I stayed on as his employee, but it would mean working in a different office. This required either relocating or increasing my daily commute by at least 4 times. The alternative was to stay at the old office, now under new ownership. I chose the second option. The new owner had worked alongside us for some time before the deal was finalized to understand how we operated. I didn't know she was planning to buy the company. She accompanied me on assignments and saw my capabilities. When it was announced that she was the new owner, everyone was surprised. She conducted a mass layoff, essentially cleaning house. The manager left to start her own business because the new owner took over the manager's duties herself. Only the secretary, me, and a few new employees earning minimum wage were left. Everyone who had reached a good level was let go, as most were on 0-hour contracts, no guaranteed pay, only payment for results making it easy for her to do so. For the clients, nothing seemed to change. The company name stayed the same, but the owner and legal entity were different. In the first few months after the ownership change, my job involved training the remaining employees. I also recommended a few new hires I had worked with before. I was honest with the owner, telling her that one of them was a close friend and the other was my girlfriend. Both were more than qualified for the job, and they were hired. Over the next 2 years, things went downhill. The new owner decided to increase profits by raising prices and lowering the quality of the product. New clients didn't notice the difference. They just thought we were expensive and that our product wasn't the best on the market. However, long-term clients who had been with us for over 10 years noticed the change immediately. They felt cheated, paying more for a worse product. In the end, 95% of our old clients left us. New clients almost never placed repeat orders. The number of complaints skyrocketed, and employee turnover became absurdly high. People would leave after just a few months because the minimum wage they were paid wasn't worth the effort the job required. My girlfriend resigned. My friend stayed but was looking for a new job. Then I got a call. The owner demanded that I come to the office. This was unexpected. I'd just finished working with a client on site, and my next meeting with another client was in 2.5 hours, a half-hour drive away. The office was about an hour and 10 minutes from both locations. If I went to the office, I would only have about 5 minutes to be there before needing to leave. My trips were reimbursed in addition to my salary, but I always tried to save the company money by optimizing my routes. Besides, the parking situation near the second meeting location was terrible, so I wanted to arrive early to find a spot and read a book. The owner didn't care. She insisted I rush to the office. So, I did. When I arrived, she handed me a letter notifying me of a disciplinary meeting scheduled in a few days. I was allowed to bring a witness if I wanted to. This shocked me. I was one of the company's best employees. I read through the list of her complaints about my work and began preparing my defense. At the meeting, I chose not to bring a witness. Instead, I decided to record the entire meeting on my phone without informing her. Where I live, this is legal, and her consent wasn't required. Her witness was her friend, whom she'd met at yoga classes, and had hired into an office role to replace someone who'd quit. The complaints ranged from weak ones like, "You were unavailable for work for a whole week in August. I had taken a week off to attend my cousin's wedding across the country," to petty ones, such as, "You were late to work on May 12. That was the day my car broke down, and I had called the office to inform them. I even had a receipt from the repair shop dated May 12 to prove it." There was also outright falsehood. She accused me of a gross safety violation during product delivery to a client. This was a lie. I hadn't violated any safety laws. I knew exactly what I was doing, having worked in the field for 14 years. She had even seen me perform the delivery method multiple times and had never raised an issue. In fact, she had asked me to train other employees in this method. She concluded her list of complaints by saying she didn't want to lose me but couldn't justify keeping such a bad employee at my current salary. I was given two options: sign a 0-hour contract and work for minimum wage, or she would fire me with 2 weeks' notice. I objected, pointing out that, under my contract, I was entitled to 12 weeks' notice 1 week for each year I'd worked, up to a maximum of 12 weeks. She argued that I had been her employee for only 2 years since I had worked for the previous owner before her. I explained that, under the terms of the business transfer, my employment was considered continuous. I cited labor laws to back this up. She requested a 30-minute break during the meeting to call her lawyer. When she returned, she announced that, since she was firing me for gross misconduct, she didn't need to provide any notice at all. If I wanted to stay and switch to a 0-hour contract, I could do so that day. If not, she would be forced to fire me, but, out of kindness, would give me 2 weeks' notice. I asked for a few hours to go home and think it over. She agreed. I knew the real reason she wanted me to stay for 2 weeks. One of our few remaining major clients was scheduled to receive a product from me during that time. This client worked exclusively with me. The owner had tried several times to send other employees to handle their deliveries, but issues always arose. This wasn't the employee's fault. The delivery process was highly complex and tailored to this specific client, requiring flawless execution. I called the office and spoke with the owner. I declined the 0-hour contract and told her I was leaving. She then informed me that she was terminating me with 2 weeks' notice. I refused her offer of 2 weeks' notice, stating that if she was firing me for gross misconduct, it would be unsafe to rely on me for product delivery. It would be better for everyone if I simply didn't return to work from that point on. She panicked and said she needed me to work for those 2 weeks. I pretended to be naive and said I was only thinking about what was best for the company. After all, it wasn't right to let employees incompetent in safety protocols deliver products to clients. However, I added that if she reconsidered the accusation of gross misconduct, I'd fulfill my 12-week notice period. She had 2 options: 2 weeks or 12 weeks. She chose 12. During those 12 weeks, I worked just as I had for the previous 14 years. I didn't slack off, cut corners, or speak poorly about the company. I continued training new employees and delivering products in my unique, high-quality style. I also consulted a lawyer specializing in labor law. Throughout those 12 weeks, the owner barely spoke to me. It irritated her that I knew my legal rights and didn't fall for her lies. She hated that I could stand up for myself. She was petty. Once, she accidentally dropped my mug in the kitchen, breaking it. The most ridiculous act was when she paid for a spa day all the office staff except me. I was asked to come in on my day off to answer phones while everyone else enjoyed spa treatments. No one knew I hadn't been invited until they arrived at the spa and realized I wasn't there. The funny thing is, I'm a big bearded guy with interest in spas. If she had offered it to me, I would have politely declined. By excluding me, she only made herself look bad. In the final 2 weeks, I trained my friend, who was essentially meant to replace me. On my last day, the owner didn't prepare anything, no card, no recognition of my 14 years with the company, 2 of which were under her leadership. The assistant manager, who had become a friend, gave me a few gifts, but she had to do it after the owner left, fearing potential consequences. The day after my last day, 2 things happened. First, my friend, who I had been training to replace me, quit. He was on a 0-hour contract, so no notice was required. He was unhappy with how I had been treated, and with the expectation that he perform my well-paid job for minimum wage. He didn't tell me about his plans to leave, and I only found out when he showed up at my door in the middle of the day, during work hours, to let me know. Second, the owner received a letter notifying her that I was pursuing legal action against her for unfair dismissal. I had arranged with my lawyer for the letter to be delivered the day after my last day. According to the office assistant, the owner turned pale and began crying before stepping out of the office to call her lawyer. She contested my claim of unfair dismissal, insisting it was due to gross misconduct, and tried to fabricate additional reasons for firing me. But the truth was simple. The company was earning less money due to her business practices, and I was the highest paid employee and the only one on a salaried contract. I had evidence that I was an excellent employee. I also had proof that she had initially asked me to switch to a 0-hour contract. Her attempts to deny this were nonsensical, because fabricating gross misconduct wouldn't align with wanting me to stay. Once my lawyer provided her lawyer with a transcript and a recording of our meeting, she realized she was in serious trouble. Still, she tried to drag things out, likely hoping I'd drop the case due to legal costs. But she didn't know my lawyer was working on a no-win, no-fee basis. Eventually, we reached an out-of-court settlement. The office assistant, who had become my friend, quit a few months later. She disliked how I had been treated and didn't feel safe working under such an unreliable leader. Several former clients contacted me personally to ask why I no longer worked at the company. It turned out the owner had told them I had just left. I informed them that I had been let go due to cost-cutting. Some clients moved their business to other companies. A few even offered me jobs. One client proposed part-time work and offered to pay for my college education to get the degree needed for a full-time role. It was a great offer, but the client was too far away for a daily commute, and I wasn't ready to relocate. Eventually, I found a new job in a different industry, where many of my skills came in handy. I now earn more, work less, and have a great boss. As for that company, it's in decline. The COVID-19 pandemic left the new owner in a desperate situation. She canceled orders and refused to refund clients, citing force majeure clauses in contracts. The company's reviews on Facebook and Google plummeted. Most employees quit. The business is still afloat but barely hanging on. Let me read out a relevant comment. A hard-working employee with a strong work ethic is worth their weight in gold. A happy employee equals excellent work. I don't understand why so many managers fail to grasp this simple formula. It's because they aren't on the front lines with you. It's easy for them to convince themselves that all employees are more or less the same. They also struggle to accept the idea that raising salaries leads to better work after all. They're the ones paying. In the short term, the results may seem neutral or even worse at times. You won't instantly get better performance from people just because you gave them a raise. Our economy isn't designed for the long term. Thank you for your attention. Subscribe, leave comments, and share your thoughts about the behavior of the main character's boss and how you would have acted in this situation. Have a great day.